Alright, we're going to learn how to do dragon wings today, which are basically just bat wings. But I'll show you how I start mine. You can start with basic shapes like these. Obviously, this is kind of based on bird wings. Just the general shape, you can start out with something like that. Just simple lines that kind of outline the basic shape. Same here. So, you're going to sort of look at it in a way like a bird wing without any feathers. You can start with that as a sort of skeleton. You can also start, since the wings of a bat, or a dragon, as we are calling this, are basically arms and hands with elongated fingers that extend into the membranes. So what you're going to do here, this is the basic shoulder area. You can do a circle for that. For the joints and such, you can do circles for representation of that to kind of get you started. And then you're going to go down, do the forearm, which is pretty shortened comparison to the forearm. And here's your elbow joint. And then that's going to go there. And you're going to have your thumb claw that will stick up here. With dragons, you can play around and have them have more than one more than one claw in this area. You can actually have them have two, or one, or even a full claw, like 4 fingers or 5 fingers. Smaug from the Hobbit series actually had, at least in the movie, they actually had him have an entire hand in comparison to the rest of his wing. He actually had that hand completely right in that area. And then with the fingers, they're going to stretch down. Now, with the hand, you have 4 fingers, aside from the thumb. Now, they're going to go down. Only thing I would bring up with bat wings, the 2 first fingers, the index and the middle finger, are fused somewhat. So we're going to kind of ignore that rule since we're doing dragon wings and have them be spread out and not be fused like that. Although you can go with that same design if you want to. Now, these are basically just finger bones that are extended. And you're going to kind of, these will be what is going to guide you on how to shape your membrane between the fingers. There are points on these fingers, and what you'll do here, and obviously you can adjust how your membranes behave, what kind of style of membrane you want, whether you want it tattered or to look clean. You can also have nails at the ends of the membranes if you want to. I'm just going to leave them blank for now because I don't need them. But there's a lot of stylization you can really get into when you're doing dragon wings. There's a lot of rules you don't have to apply. And you go up with here. And in general, some dragon wings will actually go back up and be kind of thin towards the forearm, but you can actually add it, have the membrane go all the way into the lower half of the body, almost to where the legs are. That's kind of how they work on a bat. You don't necessarily have to do that. You can do many designs, as I said before, so it's not an issue if you don't want to follow exactly what I'm doing here. I'm just showing the basics of how they are constructed and a little bit of the shading that goes into it. One of the main things, too, if you really want to get realistic, is there are some large arteries in these wings. Because they are membranous, they actually have arteries running through them. They're living skin. So if you really wanted to get in detailed work, you can actually do some veining in them. I'm actually looking at a picture of a flying fox bat. They are a really good example to look at for much larger constructed membranous wings, because you can see a lot of detail in there, a lot of the big arteries. Just everything on them is much bigger than a great deal of other bat species, because a lot of bat species are really tiny. But you've got great skin textures, all kinds of stuff you can really look at with the flying foxes. Just because they're so big, you see much more detail on them than you do with the little guys, because the little guys, unless you get HD pictures of them, it's kind of hard to really see them, see all the details real clearly. And you can actually go in and do some of the musculature in the shoulder area here. And these details are kind of in the inner wing, but in general they can go be applied on the outer wing as well. For instance, a dragon wing might be armored on the outer side more so than on the inner. Like you'll have, obviously, the shoulder blades, not shoulder blades, but the shoulders will have larger scales, more armored looking. And you can just sort of play around with that. And you can actually make the arms bulkier if you really want to. There are some dragons, I believe they're called wyverns, that have just the two normal back legs, and their front legs are actually just the wings that are pretty much function as both their arms and their wings. I like that design the best, honestly, because it makes them look a little more realistic. Because we don't have many large six-limbed creatures on Earth, so I think that design tends to make a little bit more sense. You have something like birds, obviously their arms and hands from when they were theropods changed into the wings, and the wings actually function a great deal like arms, obviously, even though they don't really use them as manipulating organs anymore. But those are the fingers, and then when you get into some of the shading, let's see, you can just do some general stuff like this. Some of the membranes you're going to see, you can see a little bit of tattering in some membranes. I've actually noticed that in some bats that I've watched flying around in my local area. You can actually tell they have some wear and tear on them. You can kind of decide how much you want to use in that. But they do get torn up once in a while, I imagine. And your basic shading is going to be almost as if you draped a sheet between the finger bones and the arm bones. You're going to sort of see some of that kind of play around. And then maybe a little bit underneath the arm. But mostly in between this area, you're going to see a little more shadow. And there's different wing positions that have the skin looking more taut, pulled more tightly, like when the wing and the fingers are fully extended. And also when the wing is actually folded inward, you'll see the skin actually fold up really nicely. You see a lot of skin folds, a lot of texture in there. It's really nice. But yeah, it's sort of like a sheet, same sort of dynamics of that. So you can kind of follow that a little bit. But in general, your main shadows are going to be between the finger bones and there. And maybe just a little bit in between the crook here. Now that's basic, how you have your arm extended, or your wing. Now this is going to be the folded wing. Again, the same naked bird wing sort of structure to start. And then going to go on here, make sure you have your thumb. Okay. And then you can start again with the same sort of quick structure of the arm bones to kind of get your bearings. One thing that's interesting to note is that bats are actually closer related to primates than they are rodents. So we're actually kind of related to them. That's interesting, but I'm kind of disappointed we don't have wings. I think we all would like to fly on our own at some point. It'd be nice. Okay. And when you fold up this wing here, you're going to notice a little bit of curl on the finger bones toward the end. Sometimes you'll notice that, especially on bats. Sometimes when they're at rest, they actually curl them in, almost like you're using your hand. It's the same bones, same everything. I mean, it's just going to finish this wing. Again, same thing. You're going to finish out your wing bones. And then we're just adding shadow to the skin folds. And you can actually put little indents where the knuckle bones would be, if you want to do that. But that's your basic dragon wing or bat wing, if you want to call it that. I will be back with more poses soon.